right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the lab. We got another exciting episode here for you. As always, though, sitting with you, you got Lou, Alex, Brandon, and Dave. Today, what we're going to talk about is we are actually going to discuss interval training versus CrossFit. I'll kind of let Alex and Brandon kind of give a little bit of a definition on interval training, and then Dave and I will kind of give a little bit of a discussion on CrossFit conditioning and its methodologies. But I'll let you two take it away, Brendan and Alex.
So in the simplest form, it's just basically you got a X amount of time to do an exercise, you get an X amount of time to rest, and you just keep redoing it over and over again. So say you do, or an X amount of reps, I guess, not really time. So you might do 5 or 10 reps on an exercise. You might do 5 or 10 seconds worth of an exercise, and then you might go into another exercise, or you might switch. You might go into a rest. So can be a lot of things. You can do 2 or 3 exercises in a row before you rest. You can do one exercise before you rest. So, I mean, there's always a work capacity, a work time, or a work rep, and then with a designated rest period to kind of target the cardiovascular system, things along those lines.
Okay. That's kind of a short, sweet, and to the point.
That's why I like it.
Okay, so Brandon, I'm kind of curious because this is one of the topics you came up with. Why did you specifically want to do interval training versus CrossFit?
Because I think people get them confused. CrossFit's stupid. Interval training isn't stupid. It's very simple.
I wouldn't call it stupid. Wouldn't call it stupid. I would definitely say that sometimes coaches don't have the best idea of bioenergetics and targeting specific systems. And Lord, help me out here, Dave. So what?
Yeah, there's more to life than just AMRAPs all the time.
It's too varied sometimes.
Yeah.
For the general population, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, if you want to be a CrossFit athlete, hey, go ahead and knock yourself out.
Hammer it.
Yeah.
See how long you last.
I agree. I think sometimes beat the crap out of each other. And I mean, man, how do I put it? You can have someone who's got a 4-year degree in exercise science, and people will go to a weekend course, get a CrossFit certification, and all of a sudden they know everything that is about fitness. It's like, no, I'm not a big fan of that.
A very, very, very small realm of fitness.
Yes, I would agree with that. And then people want to sit there and tell me that a metcon is the best way in order for them to build cardiovascular capacity, work capacity, whatever you want to call it. But no, I definitely think that CrossFit to a capacity has the capability of being wonderful, especially when people incorporate interval training in a more efficient way. But I don't know, bearing it to a degree, I think is not necessarily bad.
Yeah, I think we need to place a definition on it for it. So
yeah,
CrossFit has interval training. Interval training isn't CrossFit.
Yeah.
So we have very specific lines on that.
I think CrossFit's just more barbell movement.
Depending on your coach. I mean, Bookie programs intervals all the time, and CrossFit was actually founded off of interval weight training. So it's I don't know, they definitely breed, but like you're saying, the AMRAP stuff or the rounds for time or the long duration cardio stuff where you're just getting insane amounts of volume may or may not be there with interval training.
So I'm all about AMRAPs, like to a certain, but if you put a 20-minute or a 30-minute AMRAP cap on there, no, like I'm all about like if I give you 4 or 5 different, say you got like 3 exercises and you got 4 or 5 sets to do it, try to get that done as fast as you can, is with good quality of it. But I don't care what you're doing. If you're trying to do something as many times as you can for 25 to 30 minutes, shit's gonna go out the window.
Yeah, as far as form and everything like that. And
barbell work specifically.
Yeah, that's my only hiccup with CrossFit is the fact that they teach the most technical movements as far as the Olympic weightlifting movements. And then you're doing them for AMRAPs and for time and stuff like that. And overall, or the higher percentage of people doing that have terrible form, and they break down too easily in their form because they're weak when they should just be doing more muscle base intervals as far as that goes. Maybe 2 exercises that target, the low back and the thoracic rather than 40 hang cleans.
I think one of the things that kind of gets bad rep with CrossFit is that you'll have like prescribed weights in terms of like particular metcons, normal training, whatever you got. And I think that it almost needs to become more individualized to the, like, basically you got how many people in a class, maybe sometimes as little as 5, as many as 25 people. Yeah. When you're doing a metcon and you're going through that, there's the prescribed weights, you have scaled weights, and you have like RX plus, right? So what I think sometimes can be hard for coaches to do in those larger group settings is having people go more to like what they should maybe scale to and how to scale that. Sometimes even the scaled weight, in my opinion, is still too much for people. But like,
yeah,
I do agree with you.
based.
Thank you. Yes, making it more specific to that person so that they can basically not get that same kind of breakdown like you're talking about. But I mean, how efficient can you be with large group classes? It all depends. But then I do think that, how do I put it? You can still be efficient with CrossFit training, but I do not think that it is going to be as efficient as if you were, like you guys are already talking about, interval training, right? If I have someone who is going through, like, we'll use Murph as an example. Murph is how many push-ups, pull-ups, and squats, right? And you basically are just trying to get it done as fast as possible, and you got a mile run beforehand. Now, are you going to be building the what?
And after.
And after. So if you think about it, in terms of building aerobic capacity, building any type of strength, what do you really think the target goal for that workout is going to be? Like, just shoot some things off the top of your head, what you think would be accomplished through the 1 mile run, the 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, run a mile again. Like, what are you going to technically like, what are you going to gain out of that? Besides just beating the crap out of yourself? Like, you see what I mean?
They have like actually done studies where it throws off your training cycle for up to 4 to 6 months after doing Murph.
Yeah.
Especially with the weighted vest.
For a while.
Mm-hmm. What'd you say?
I was hurting bad. I was hurting bad, bro. I about went to the hospital. But there's a bunch of other different like things on top of that. But
yeah, the 100-degree building we were working in.
Dude, it was actually, I did have a buddy that hasn't worked out in a while. He went to he did the Murph, even scaled it a little bit, but he ended up getting rhabdo real bad. Ended up going to the hospital. They had to pump him with a whole bunch of fluid, and if he would have waited like another 12 hours, his kidneys would have shut down.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, he was in the hospital for 5 days.
That's a little freaky.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Holy shit, I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm. I think this is where like the high variance of coaching or whatnot definitely comes into play. Unfortunately, like they just champion intensity when it should likely be done, I don't know, 2 to 3 times a week. Anything higher than that, you're probably getting a rate of diminishing return on it.
Exactly. It's like the volume on it is almost too much to the point where like beating yourself up does not necessarily mean you're going to be making progress. And like when you have 30 minutes in a metcon and you're trying to do a full clean and you've got, let's say you've got 65, 75, sometimes even 80%, especially when you're doing like ladders in a metcon, if you're doing that too. I mean, like, what are you truly going to be getting from that when you're catching with a rounded back every single time as you get towards the end of that metcon? Like, I definitely think there needs to be a little bit more meticulous, like, science to some of the programming, because some people are getting their programming from, like, for example, you've got Comp Train, just to name a few. Comp Train, you got Training Think Tank, you've got Misfit. I'm trying to think, Misfits, right? Is that right? Misfit Athletics.
Yeah, there's a camp called Misfit.
Yeah, and then there's like there's a lot of different people putting out different things, but if you look at, no one's programming the same, right? So to say whose is better would be hard to say.
Well, you're the whole CrossFit Games is you get to find out what the workout is the day before, and it's just random shit. So I mean, you gotta, if you're gonna compete in the games, I mean, you gotta just literally just throw random shit on the board and see how well you can adapt your body to 1,000 different variables.
Yeah, the thing that stinks too is like nobody sees those athletes go through 3-4 training sessions a day where they're hitting accessories, they're hitting log aerobic pieces, they're working on form. They just get to see them doing the real
the
high
game.
intensity stuff at the
Yeah.
games.
The
Or
cool
like
stuff.
the class by itself is just the cool stuff. It's not the long, boring cardio, the heavy lifting, etc. And it just it stinks.
You're not
See,
magically gonna.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're not magically gonna just be able to throw up 100 or 365-pound clean by doing AMRAPs.
Yeah. But see, I think like the top guys understand that, like the people at the games understand that there's different blocks and different phases in order to get where you're going, like to get there. They're doing essentially interval training, but it's more precise and it has more direction rather than
Well,
just throwing
well, the
everything
whole
in the crock pot and hoping it tastes good.
well, the whole reason behind CrossFit is to make the average person feel like they excel at a sport. Because the Olympics, you're either really fast or you can run really long distances. And then all of a sudden these 50-50 type 1, type 2 guys couldn't keep up with the fast guys, and they couldn't keep up with the distance guys, so they had to come up with something that could bridge the gap to where they can compete.
Yeah,
Isn't
they're all
that the
retired D1
decathlon?
athletes.
Yeah.
That's you, Lou,
What?
the middle guy.
Not the middle guy. Yeah, I know. Jack of all trades, master of nothing.
That's what I'm saying. If I wanted to be really good at something, I'd pick up CrossFit.
Yeah.
On a like a higher note though, I think the winner of the games the past like 2 or 3 years has followed conjugate methodology from the male side.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
kind of preaching that like big broad strength base like you guys are. There's definitely something to be said about it, and just not throwing shit at a wall and letting it stick.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of like Louis like stupid quotes were like we're 20 or 30 years ahead of the curve. Something like that. Cause like he's been doing this shit since like early 80s, because it was just all the Russian and Soviet transcripts from way back in the day. But he just condensed it and cut out all the fat of it. Is how all that worked. Because just like any other program, I'm sure there's builders and there's testers. I know we've touched on that before. So like, if you're terrible in a power clean, for example, but you can hang clean more, well, then you need to work on from the floor to the hang clean position, which is essentially just a snatch grip deadlift. If you can increase that and you can increase the force behind that, even if you put bands on it for like your speed pulls or whatever, then you should hit a power clean PR just by that, because you have overspeed eccentrics and everything with that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my bad.
It seems like the sport is like taking a giant step forward with strength as a result too. Like you're seeing these guys that are running 5-minute miles and they have like 300-pound plus snatches, and it's just accelerating because of it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
they're
also
freak
think too,
individuals, I'll
like
give them that.
just with any sport in general, you're gonna have more freak athletes show up for it. Like when there's money on the line, you're gonna see like these genetically gifted freaks just show up and dominate. I mean, I'm at like I think it was Rogan maybe or something like that, and he was like, just imagine if you had like the top 25 NFL guys that have trained MMA their whole life. Then
Yeah, I mean,
like they would all
Chandler
be the top
Smith's
fighters.
brothers, like John Bones Jones or whatever. Or,
Yeah.
Chandler, and he obviously is dominating it.
Yep.
So it's in his family to go to the NFL, and his brother's a freak athlete in the NFL, and he just chose to do something else.
Yeah, and I think John said that Chandler would beat him up too, like all growing up and stuff.
Yeah, he said he shook his hand and just brings him to the ground. Or like there was some quote around that. It was pretty stifling.
It's wild.
Gonna make it there, Brandon.
She doesn't do that very often, but I think she's chasing lights.
Yeah,
that's funny. No, that kind of brings up. You guys bring up a good point. So you guys were talking about like try to show you brought up the tester and builder thing again, and I just thought about how many times I've gone into a CrossFit gym. I mean, during all of my clinical rotations, how many times? I mean, Dave, you can even speak to this, where you have like the workout of the day, where you might have like a strength portion, the metcon, and then there's the entire list of accessory movements, right? So it's like if you have like your Joe Schmo who goes in there, I've seen people who will do every single accessory movement after already done working out, and they think that that's going to make them better. It's going to make them stronger. They're going to be better at metcons, etc. And it's like that ain't it. Like
There's
that
this
kind of
weird
drives
thing
me
too
nuts.
where their volume almost drops in the wrong spot. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know how like the bottom of the conjugate pyramid always has like this amount of volume you're doing with special exercises to bolster and hypertrophy your main movers or your weak points.
Yep.
It's like they drop out the bottom of it as you're peaking towards a cycle, and then people just get injured all over the place as a result.
Yeah.
Which you should be training more into like
Correct.
into that cycle. I mean, if you train hard enough leading up to that though, like it all just stacks on top of each other kind of thing, right? Because you want to
It
raise your
should.
general physical preparedness. So like, you know, at the end of like a training block or whatever, it shouldn't be an issue for you to bang out, you know, 100 reps of banded hamstring curl or 100 reps of tricep push down, like just little stuff like that, or, you know, whatever weakness it is, back extensions, reverse hypers, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
I've
yeah,
always
you
tried
have
to like phrase it to my patients is like your metcon is a test of your fitness. It's not the workout,
mm-hmm.
right? So like your metcon exposes you, it doesn't necessarily make you fitter.
Yeah.
So like if you get exposed by a power clean or halted by this weight or whatever, it's like, all right, either drop the weight or work on your power clean.
Yeah.
And then there's not really like a, you know, delineating factor. Otherwise you
Mm-hmm.
risk injury.
Yeah.
So earn the right to your metcon, not the other way around.
Yep. Yeah,
Good
your
point, dude.
metcon should essentially piss you off because like
Yep.
you are going to fail at it. And you should. Like that's the other thing. Like people get scared to fail, but failing exposes what you're bad at, you know?
Where's your weak point?
Yeah.
And it's to inform your training.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the answer to the test. You just have to be go enough to be like, okay, this is gonna suck, but I know I need to hit this like way more often.
Yep.
Like there was trying to think, there was an open workout a few years ago where it was like lunges, box step ups, and then strict handstand push ups. And like there were certain parts where you said
There's
it?
overhead lunges.
Yes. And then it was like you fly through that one particular part and then you get to the strict handstand push-ups, and it's like that was where you could just see like that was like the cutoff for majority of the people, where they would just kind of trail off, and people that were freaks would go through it and then go through another round, etc. But like that would be like the idea of like, okay, you found out where your limiter was. That's what you would want to basically work on then next. I don't think there's anything else I want to add to that, because I mean, obviously we talked about like interval training. So then let's think about it this way. So like obviously with the conjugate system, since we got all four of us here, this is kind of let's dive into this a little bit. So with the conjugate system and the way that it's kind of set up, how could you go about incorporating interval training into a traditional, or maybe not traditional, like try to help me out here. Like what would be like a normal weekly block for like the conjugate system?
Well, you can just do like your 4 days. So you'd have 2 max effort movements, one for lower, one for upper, and then 2 dynamic movements or speed days for your lower and your upper as well. And as far as the interval training goes, 9 times out of 10, we typically do that at the end. It's just, you know, supersets or giant sets where it's 3 or 4 exercises all back to back to back. You know,
Well,
but
in a sense, the 5 minutes of hell is interval training.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially if you're
That
talking
was-
about your dynamic work. Say you got your 5 squats and you got your 10 kettlebell swings and you're hitting it on the minute, whatever it may be, or your plyo or your deadlifts and jumps. You still have your 2 exercises. You still have your certain amount of rest period. It all varies. I mean, so I think a whole dynamic day of conjugate is basically interval training.
Yeah. Oh, it's very fast paced. But I mean, a lot of people don't understand too that like, you know, I don't want to get too far into it, but your natural testosterone levels drop significantly after 40 minutes of intense training. So like if you're going to really put like an interval training in there, it needs to be condensed and needs to be hard and heavy within that 40 minutes too. Because I think there was, I forget the exact amount of volume, but I think we, like, as a group of 4 of us, had cleared all of 10,000 pounds of volume on squats alone in like 5 minutes and 44 seconds. something like that. It was terrible. Like I remember
Jesus
like
Christ.
the room was pulsing, like it sucked. But like it's doable. And it raised like my GPP faster than anything else. Yeah, Peyton.
What's up, buddy? Dude.
Little special
Yeah.
guest.
So I think the way that we do it is like we have like Monday, Friday is like our max effort days, where obviously you're taking about 15, 20 minutes to get there, find something heavy, then be done with it. And then that's where we'll stack our longer metcons to meet that kind of 40 to 45-minute window. All right. So you get in there, you hit a couple good reps, your volume isn't intolerably high. Then you kind of go into, I don't know, within like a 4-minute window, hit 20 calories on Echo Bike, and then pick whatever gymnastics or whatever movement you'd want to do, and then maintain that pace for X amount of rounds around that 20-minute time mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that seemed pretty recoverable.
Mm-hmm.
And see, like, and that's another thing too. It's like, are you or like are your people doing everything as far as recovery goes as well?
Nope.
You know, like, yeah, I mean, I'm with it too. Like, I don't do that ice baths or anything like that, mainly because I don't fit in a tub, and I don't want to go spend the money on a horse trough yet.
If we could just get them to eat, sleep, drink water, and then decrease the amount of training load, that would be pretty astounding.
I mean, we have one of our kids now where she was having like episodes where she was like collapsing or like passing out and stuff like that, and then we talked to her about like what her food intake was, and it was like, I mean, dude, maybe 30 grams to 40 grams of protein for the whole day. You're talking way under 800 calories for the day, probably just eating like a rabbit. So then, like, you know, and she's a bulldog too. So like, whatever you say, like, she's going to do it. And so like, yeah, we challenged her to like, she's got to eat 100 grams of protein before practice. So from the time that you wake up to 3 p.m. in the afternoon, you have to have 100 grams down. And she's been doing that, and her energy levels are up. She's way more focused.
Not as cranky.
She's got her moments. Good kid though, so I can't knock her.
Yeah. Thing.
But
Peyton, you got anything else you want to add on this big guy?
So just get jacked and juicy, man. That's answered all life problems.
Anything else you guys want to add on to interval training or CrossFit? Because I definitely think that there's advantages to both. I just think that people need to be a little bit more analytical with their programming, and at the same time, you know, identify the weaknesses and then use the metcons as your testers.
Yep. See, again, this leads right back into my stupid statement. Like, I think you should have a training partner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I mean, just like, you know, let's say that all four of us, like, I trust your knowledges as far as what needs to be done to increase like my squat, for example, right? So I have 3 other sets of eyes that are highly professional and highly trained and to look for breakdowns of the muscular anatomy. So like that's a training partner. Like, that's what you need to have, because my training partners always told me what my weaknesses are, even if I didn't believe them, you know, because I'm not seeing me from all angles and their side of things. So get a training partner to call you out on your shit.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I do think that's why CrossFit's so appealing, though, is because you have that community and all these training partners. But yeah, like you said, specialized knowledge really kind of the thing that might separate it.
Mm-hmm. And see, I think there should be other classes. Like, are you there for a social event, or are you there to get better? Because if I'm going to sit here killing myself day in and day out, I want somebody there like that wants to be better as well. Because I know that we're going to push each other. Like, it's competitive. Like, I want to be able to like be honest with you, because I come off very blunt. I'm well aware of that. But like, if I tell you that you suck at something, I'm not saying it just to say it. Like, I'm trying to let you know so you can fix it.
Makes sense. Some gyms will have a competitors class. Just depends on where you go.
Yeah.
No, but all right. Well, we
Even
hope you
those are
guys
getting to
enjoyed.
be few and far between too, because everybody gets their butt hurt when somebody says that. But
Yep.
whatever, it is what it is.
Hey man, I'd rather be an asshole than a liar.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode on CrossFit and interval training, and a few little extras added in there. But we'll see you guys in the next episode.